Happy Tuesday. I hope you can hear me this whole time. I'm having some issues, but I'm going to do my best. I hope your week is off to a fantastic start. This is our first edition of Tuesday Talks, where I'm going to be bringing on some amazing women to chat with. And tonight I have Elizabeth Hall here with me. She's an intuitive eating counselor and body image life coach. And we are going to dive into all things intuitive eating. And I know some of you had posted some questions, so we will get to those. And if anyone jumps on and you have other questions, pop them in the comments and hopefully I see them. I'm going to have my phone pulled up too. That usually helps. You never know when I'm streaming with Zoom and whatnot. But yes, we are here to talk intuitive eating. So Elizabeth,
I'm so excited. This is
yeah,
going to be awesome.
yeah,
There's so much to say.
right? I know we were just saying before we got on that it is a very in-depth topic
Yes.
with a lot that could be talked about. But we're gonna keep it, kind of high level, not get too overwhelming, and just really give you the basics. I don't know where anybody is at in the intuitive eating journey, if you are even thinking about it, if you've even heard about it. But I know it is rising in popularity right now, where people are really getting tired of the typical diet culture and the on and off the wagon and feeling like you just can't get a handle on it and feeling like you're thinking about food all the time and you're stressing about your weight and obsessing with the scale. So intuitive eating really offers a way to calm all of that and break free from the vicious cycle.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you basically just described the general
Mm-hmm.
purpose of intuitive eating, which is to break free from the diet culture cycle. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to hear a little bit of how I got into it, if that would be
I would
helpful or
love
not.
to. Yes.
Very briefly. So it was probably about 8 years ago. And I was fully in that diet culture. I mean, I had dieted for 30 years. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. I thought that was quote unquote normal. I just thought I was doing it wrong. I thought I was addicted to sugar. I thought I'll never stop eating. And I started actually exploring books about the emotional relationship with food. And that's kind of how I came to intuitive eating, a little bit backwards. But intuitive eating really brings everything together in helping you stop that behavior that is more diet culture related so you can calm down and learn how to listen to your own body when it comes to deciding what you're going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just makes a world of difference just in your life, because then suddenly this whole source of tension and this place that you put all this energy just dissipates and goes away. So not always right away, and it
Uh-huh.
takes some time, it takes some
Mm-hmm.
work, it takes some effort. This is not like a quick fix. And it also depends, it's going to look different for everyone. Everyone's going to have a different story. Just
Mm-hmm.
dissipates
Oh,
and
hold
goes
on.
away. So
Sorry.
not
I
always right
pulled
away.
up the video on my phone. There we go. Um, yeah, and like you said, it's not something that's a quick fix, but it's so worth it when you realize how much time and energy you are spending thinking about food and your body
Right.
and how much it really like controls your life at that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, and it really keeps you from experiencing other things because all of that energy is going into the food thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll try not to get too complicated, but sometimes we do that on purpose because we've been taught to do that. It's easy to do that, and it's familiar. So for
Mm.
many of us, we just get used to it, and we just think that's what we're supposed to do. And it's not until we kind of start poking at that a little bit that we realize there's other things that we can do. So,
Yeah, I
and
know
intuitive eating is a great entry into that. So,
yeah, and it's almost like what you just said, it's what we think we're supposed to do. Like,
Yeah.
we grow up and are raised to think like that's totally normal. That is what you're supposed to be on and off a diet or on a diet. You're supposed to be worried about your weight. You're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be, being good. And you can't even imagine like, well, no, because what do you mean? If I'm not watching my weight, if I'm not dieting, then I'm just gonna like keep gaining weight and be, 700 pounds. And what am I going to do? And then I'm not thinking about my health. And you start worrying about all these things because we've been told like you need to watch your weight if you want to be healthy and if you want to be beautiful. And we get it from all different
Mm-hmm.
directions. So it's no
Mm-hmm.
wonder that it's not something that can be, changed overnight. And often it's hard to do alone on your own.
Right. Right. That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of your readers actually had asked the question. Rob Lynn Conrad had said, "What's the best way to get started when you've spent your entire life training yourself to ignore your body's cues?"
Mm-hmm.
And like we're saying right now, it takes time because you've spent your whole life ignoring your body's cues. So what we need to do is unlearn what we learned and then
Mm-hmm.
bring some new learning on board. So really the best way to get started is with educating yourself and learning more about things like intuitive eating, learning more about what it means to be more compassionate to yourself when you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to decide how to treat your body. So there's a lot of different things you can do, but mostly just dip in and take it slowly because you are having to unlearn things that you've been taught your whole life. So
Mm-hmm.
don't beat yourself up if it doesn't come easily or come right away.
Yeah. And celebrate along the way. Like, I like to
Mm-hmm.
remind people
Mm-hmm.
that yes, you might have like this end goal in mind and you feel like you can't celebrate until you reach whatever that goal is, but celebrating along the way really helps you appreciate it all because any journey, every piece of it is meaningful. And we're so quick to be
Absolutely.
so hard on ourselves. Like, especially if you're used to being on a diet. It's like, oh, I was so bad, or I shouldn't have eaten that, or I shouldn't have done that, or gosh, I should work out. We are so hard on ourselves that flipping the script can mean simply celebrating the daily, the little things,
Mm-hmm.
the, oh, wow, I listened to my body and stopped when I was full. I'm proud of myself. Like all of the little steps
Yeah.
along the way instead of expecting this like end of the game goal and then being like, okay, I made it. Because honestly, I feel like in any journey like this, there's no real end game or it's not ever
Absolutely.
over. It's ongoing. Any journey of self love and
Yeah.
well, it's never over.
Yeah. It's a daily way of being, and every day you have
Mm-hmm.
a choice how you want to do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and some days you might do it one way, some days you might do it another. But I love how you're saying it's not about the end goal, and that's something that was diet culture to me. That
Mm-hmm.
growing up in diet culture, it was all about the end goal,
Oh yeah.
and that shifted so much over the last 8 years to where it is really about celebrating the little wins and by wins I mean just things that make you feel good during the day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when you can tap into that, like it's life changing.
Totally. And when you're finding like pleasure and joy in simple things like your cup of
Absolutely.
coffee, I like my
Hmm.
cup of coffee to taste the same way every single day. So I measure my
Hmm.
creamer. It has nothing to do with calories. I just want it to taste the same way because I enjoy it so much. And finding the
Yeah.
pleasure and joy in all of the little things it's totally life changing because then you start looking for it.
Hmm.
When you start looking for it,
Hmm.
it's like
Right.
becomes your default as opposed to kind of always looking for the negative or expecting the worst.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And we're wired to look for the negative. That's a
Mhm.
survival instinct. As they say, we're Velcro for the negative, but we're Teflon for the positive. The positive just like where to
Rolls right
go.
off. Mhm.
But the negative, it's like, oh, that sticks to you for life. For life.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
So
so
part of the
true.
process is also just kind of unhooking those things and setting them back to where they came from. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you have, let's see, I have another question. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah.
What factors interfere with a natural intuitive eating process?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what comes to mind is a little bit of what we've been talking about. I mean, our conditioning, the messages we get from society. I mean, you can't watch a TV show, listen to a radio or music without somebody talking about diets, plans, weight loss. And
Yes.
that just interferes because it gets us to focus on things that are external and forget about our own experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely society's messages, and then just whatever disconnection we've already done from our own bodies, which comes for a variety of reasons. It's not just diet culture. We disconnect
Mm-hmm.
for many reasons, and that can get complicated.
Mm.
um, but if we are not in our bodies, we're not going to be able to get the signals that intuitive eating is all about. And I'll back up a little bit and explain that intuitive eating really wants you to listen to your hunger and your fullness and your satisfaction. So food should be enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not at all connected to your internal sensations and to your body, sometimes you don't know when you're hungry, you don't know when you're full, and you don't know what's satisfying. So the good news is you can explore all of those. But if you're not in touch with that, it can get in the way of trying to do intuitive eating, which
Mm-hmm.
is another reason why I caution people to step in carefully, just until they can determine how much they're aware of in their own bodies.
Mm.
When I started, I was not aware of anything. I was so disconnected. And then I jumped into intuitive eating, and it was a little bit like jumping off a cliff because it was a
Yeah.
whole different way of being. But I wasn't quite ready for it. But again, I think it can go either way. You can go in slowly, or you can rip off that Band-Aid and jump off the cliff. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're going to experience it one way or another, and it
Mm-hmm.
just depends on where you're coming from. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel in your personality, like I tend
Mm-hmm.
to be somebody, if I decide I'm going to do something, I jump all in. Like there is
Mm-hmm.
no baby stepping. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then I may
Mm-hmm.
start to be like, oh gosh, what did I just get myself into? But typically I'm somebody that jumps right in. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
and when you brought up before about hearing messages of diet culture on TV and media and whatnot, today I was in my car. My husband and I switched places. I went to work at his shop. He stayed home with the kids. So I got to listen to what I wanted to listen to. And I was listening to XM or Sirius, and I think it was Ryan Seacrest came on, and he was talking about, I think, blueberry pie or something. He's like, so of course I ate it, even though I know I shouldn't have.
Mm.
And then I'm going to eat soup for the next 3 days or something like that. And I was just, and
Mm-hmm.
they were making light of it and joking about it. And, oh yeah, well, I shouldn't have
Because
eaten that, but
everyone thinks that's normal. Yeah,
yes.
everyone thinks that's normal, right?
And it's not normal to eat soup for 3 days because you ate a piece of pie.
Exactly.
Like, it's not, it takes a like total pleasure and satisfaction out of food in general. Like, completely, I feel like.
Right, right. And so now's a good time to mention that one of the principal tenets of intuitive eating is unconditional permission to eat. And
Mm-hmm.
that means there's no good foods, no bad foods. All foods are neutral, and all foods could be satisfying or might not be satisfying, but you get to choose. Um, and if there is a certain amount of readiness for intuitive eating, in that if you don't know if you can do that, that might be another indicator that you need to step in carefully. If
Mm-hmm.
it's going to make you feel so guilty to explore that, then you also want to be exploring, why do I feel so guilty about
Yeah.
exploring this? So that's where it starts to get a little, you got to
Mm-hmm.
stay aware of what's happening in your story, and not compare yours again to anyone else's.
Yes, which is, I think, so important in so many things. And it's so easy to compare ourselves
Oh yeah,
to other
yeah, because we're
people.
taught to do that too.
Right? I know.
Yeah.
It's like this tangled web and like uncovering all these different things and like really exploring, again, the feelings behind what's happening. Then it's like, well, gosh, why do I feel this way? And just peeling back layer after layer after layer till you really get to the root of it. But once you get to the root of it, that's when you're like, oh, I'm free. I can breathe easy. Like that makes sense now. Um,
Right.
and yeah, I
Yeah.
think that is a hard one for a lot of women. I feel like that idea where they can allow all foods and that there's
Yeah.
no good or bad food, because good or bad foods, like that is so deeply ingrained in our brains. I mean, I have a 4-year-old, and it's, I mean, from the second you're like eating real food, it starts getting
Yeah.
ingrained in your brain.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really
Yep.
hard to imagine that cake is not considered a bad food. Like, well, what do you mean?
Right.
Of course it is.
Right. Yeah. And our teachers say it, our parents say it, the
Mm-hmm.
culture says it, everyone says it. But what
Mm-hmm.
intuitive eating has taught people, and they've done a lot of research on this. Intuitive eating is a completely evidence-based, research-backed program that was actually developed by a therapist and a dietitian. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason they developed it is because they saw so many people in their office who wanted to change something. Maybe they wanted to change something in their eating or their body for their health or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime they went through the diet route, everything just fell apart. I mean, they would tend to gain the weight back. I mean, there's a statistic that says about 97% of people who go on diets gain the weight back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the people just weren't happy, and they were beating themselves up over and over again for their inability to do this and to
Mm.
sustain it and to keep it. And so this dietitian and therapist kind of joined forces, and they were like, there's got to be a better way to help people take care of their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And they developed the intuitive eating. And so it's also important that it's not for intentional weight loss. That is not the purpose. The
Mm-hmm.
purpose is to take good care of your body and to feel good in your body and to let go of all of those tethers to this social conditioning that we have that tells
Mm-hmm.
us what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to do it. So peace with food and freedom is the whole point of intuitive eating.
Yeah, and talking about weight, that's another, I feel like, really hard thing for women to wrap their head around. Like, what do you mean I don't need to lose weight, or it's not going to, the purpose isn't to lose weight? Because don't I need
Right.
to lose weight to be healthy? Because we're told that over and over again. You need to lose weight
Exactly.
to be healthy. When a lot of times the weight is the byproduct of something else going
Mm-hmm.
on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stop focusing on it is
Mm-hmm.
when things usually kind of settle where they're meant to settle. 'Cause,
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know how many women, you know, they plateau and they're just so frustrated and they think that, well, I need to lose weight to be healthy. And, you know, and I ask, like, well, what if somebody told you, or you went to the doctor or whatever, and you found out you were perfectly healthy at the weight you're
Mm-hmm.
at right now? Like, what would, how would that make you feel, or what would you think about that? And they look at me like, well, no, that can't be. Well, it
Right.
can be because there are so many
Yeah.
other things that go into it. But the idea that we're
Exactly.
not watching our weight or not getting to our, you know, our goal weight or our ideal weight, is
Mm-hmm.
really hard for women to grasp and to let go of that. And I like to question, like, who sets this ideal weight anyways? You know,
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
goal
Yeah.
weight, this ideal weight, our body knows what that is, and it's hard to
Exactly.
really say otherwise
Yeah.
based
And
off of,
it's on a big spectrum. It's not
yeah.
all the same for everyone. So
Mhm.
when they created the BMI charts, it was a statistician who put these together because he wanted to describe a population's weight, but it doesn't say anything about their health. He just wanted to graph it. He wanted to say what it was like. And then somebody came along and took the middle and said that's normal as opposed to average. The middle
Mm.
is average. So the bell curve of BMI goes like this. But the
Mhm.
middle is just the average. It doesn't mean it's normal because you have people out here and you have people out here and they're still normal. That is completely
Yeah.
normal. They're under the curve. It's
Uh-huh.
not. So they've actually debunked that BMI says anything about health. But unfortunately, doctors' offices still use it as a
Oh my
measure.
gosh, I know.
And people have it in their heads that it's meaningful, or that weight, like you said, is meaningful as an indicator of health. And it's not. We need to look at our health. We need to look at our other markers and how we feel, and our emotional health and our mental health all goes into the big picture.
Absolutely. Because I think stress is going to be your biggest, the word is escaping me, but to your health. That is going to hurt your health more than anything.
Detriment, yeah.
Yes. And oftentimes when we're in this battle with our weight and our body and with food, we're in constant stress, like constant.
100%.
I mean, you wake up in the morning and you don't like what you see in the mirror, and it ruins your whole day. You're thinking about what you're going to eat, or what food is going to be at the party you're going to, or at lunch, and you're constantly stressed about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Stress is huge. And that's why so much energy gets sucked into the diet mentality, and why intuitive eating is about peace and freedom. Now, when it comes to weight, what we usually say when we're going through the process is you might gain weight, you might lose weight, or you might stay the same, because everyone's different. Everyone has had a different experience. Everyone lost touch with their body at a different place for a different reason. And everybody has different things that they might want to change. So we generally ask women can you put weight on the back burner as you're going through this process? And it's not easy. And it doesn't mean we're not going to talk about it. And it doesn't mean you might not still want to lose or gain, or have something in mind that you want to do for your body. That's nothing to feel bad about. We're just not going to use the intuitive eating to try to, it's not going to take you there like a plan. And unfortunately, some practitioners will advertise it that way. They'll advertise intuitive eating as a weight loss. Because some people do lose weight, and that's just what happened for their body. But that's not the point.
And I think, speaking about that, the idea of basically telling people what they think they want, or whatever they think they want to lose weight. So they're going to market it like, well, this will help you lose weight, even if that's not really. And to me, that's, really just feeding into it more. I, on my coaching journey, was encouraged to go the weight loss route as, be a weight loss coach. And I was like, but that's not what I want to help people do. And the coach I was working with said, well, that's what people want. Right. So you must not want to make money if you don't want to basically promote yourself that way. I'm like, but I don't want to be a part of that. And I made this website, I had all this stuff ready to go. And it's like, I hit publish, I hit live, and I immediately was like, no, I'm like, I don't want anybody to go to my website and see how to lose weight. I don't want this. This is not what I align with. And I shut it down. I mean, months of work, because I didn't know what I was doing. And I did all this tech stuff. And when it came down to it, I said, I don't want to be a part of that. Whether or not what I help somebody with, if they lose weight, great, fine. But I don't want to put the importance on that, because that was such a massive part of my life and what I wanted to undo. And I wouldn't sleep at night. I don't even care about the money aspect of it. I don't want to be a part of diet culture.
Yeah. And it's nearly impossible to focus on unconditional permission to eat when you're also judging everything from the lens of weight loss. I mean, it's like your mind is just going to explode if you're trying to hold those two concepts at the same time, and you're not going to get very far. So you'll just kind of spin yourself around if you try to hold those both at the same time.
You talk about stress and overwhelm. Yeah. Like that will totally stress you out. Let's see. I'm looking for do you have the questions in front of you? Or
So one person had mentioned, Autumn had mentioned, she just wanted to learn more about intuitive eating. So hopefully some of the things that we're going over here will help. And again, intuitive eating is a book that was written by this dietitian and therapist, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. The book is in its third edition of printing, but this year, I think they're supposed to be coming out with a new one. And in all honesty, when they first wrote it in 1995, they actually had a lot of diet culture-y, weight lossy type references as well. And they've
Mm-hmm.
even had to go through, they really saw the sort of the error in their ways and realize, wow, we can't help people unhook and keep them hooked at the same time.
Yeah.
So they've been trying to take that language out, and it's subtle. You'd have to
Mm-hmm.
kind of be very aware to notice it, but
Mm-hmm.
um, they're redoing the book to get that out. And again, yeah, intuitive eating is just a way to learn to listen to your own body and not listen to what everyone else is telling you what to do with your food. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, giving you the power back.
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, giving
Because,
you
I
the power
mean,
back.
diet culture takes your power away
It
and your
does,
trust in yourself. Like,
completely.
you have no trust that your body knows what it needs, will tell you what it needs, or that you know what you need.
Right,
Like,
right.
it's, and it's such a personal thing, like what you feed your body.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
your body, obviously, in general. And it's like to have no trust in yourself transcends to every part of your life.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, one of the major things that I work on with people as well is developing this body trust, back
mm,
in our own decisions, our own thoughts, our own feelings, and knowing that no matter where my body's at on the journey, because this is a journey and our bodies change a lot.
mm-hmm,
I mean,
mm-hmm,
there's so many different things we go through where our bodies can change, and if we don't know that we're okay at any part of that spectrum, that's when we don't have a lot of freedom. So
mm.
it's learning that we're okay wherever we're at any point.
Yeah. And then again, that doesn't mean like you might not want to make changes or you might not be,
Mm-hmm.
you might want to lose weight. That's all fine. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you have to know that you're okay no
Mm-hmm.
matter where you're
Yeah.
at and have that compassion for yourself.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
we lack a lot of compassion for ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and, say things and do things to ourselves that we wouldn't dream of doing or saying to someone we love.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's about putting yourself first, I feel like too. And
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
really,
it's that radical self-love that you talk
uh-huh,
about in your group. I mean, this is
yeah,
what it's about. And
mm-hmm,
being willing to do the things that are for you. And
yeah,
that feel good to you, and to take the time to notice what that is.
mm-hmm, and not feel
So,
guilty about it or not feel like you're
mm-mm.
being selfish
Right, right.
because gosh, that's the last thing you're being when you're taking care of yourself is
Mm-hmm.
selfish. And
Mm-hmm.
it's such a like growing and learning process when you start to get curious about things. When you start to like
Yeah.
question like what have I been told?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it this way or why am I stuck in this? And once you start like you can't go back. There's no going back
You
once
can't.
you
Yeah.
open this up. Um
Yeah.
and it's exciting and scary all at the same time, but then you start to pick out the little messages and diet culture type stuff you see, like listening to the radio talking about pie and soup, like,
The pretty pie. Yeah.
right? You start to get like really super in tune with these things. And me
You
having,
do.
my daughter, I notice it so much with, the language with kids and whatnot. It makes me think like, wow, we've been doing this our whole lives. Like,
Yeah.
it's no wonder it's hard and it's complicated and we're hard on ourselves. Um, because it's almost like it's just this way of being that you don't even realize there's anything wrong with.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, we're programmed and wired a certain way. And
yeah,
just wait till your kids get to middle school where they hand them a pamphlet in health class that tells them how to not be. I mean, my daughter's seventh grade class was basically a fat phobic class about how to not be fat. That's what their health class was. So I went in and I talked to them about that. um,
nice.
And I said, I know you don't necessarily agree with all my viewpoints about health at every size, but
Mm.
you cannot be fat phobic in a 7th grade health class and teach these kids that fat is bad and that fat is something to avoid, because we have a wide spectrum of bodies from small to big. And that's just
Mhm.
the way it is. And that's the way it's always been. And
Mhm.
so they agreed, and they took all the languaging out of all of the um, materials that
Mhm.
pointed to that. I mean, they even had pictures. It was just horrible.
Wow.
But that's where we need to be aware. We need to be aware of what is being taught and what our kids are
Mhm.
consuming, so we can stop this from
Mhm.
happening again. And the cool thing is, I think that's happening with groups
Yeah.
like yours,
Yeah.
and the work that's being done. And intuitive eating is really gaining in popularity. And I
Mhm.
think we're starting to see the harm in all those messages. So
Yeah. And like you said earlier, what a 97% failure rate with
yeah,
diets.
yeah,
Like, what are we doing?
right,
And
exactly,
like, and it's because we're told from every direction, like, fat is bad. We've had
right,
this fear of fat instilled in us right from the very
yes.
beginning. You have doctors telling you to watch your weight or you're going to be
Hmm.
unhealthy. You have
Hmm.
the media telling you to be thin if you want to, or to be thin if you want to be beautiful, and all these different directions.
Yeah,
And when you stop to think about it, it's like, what am I doing?
right,
Why?
right,
And is it worth it? Is it serving me? Am I more stressed out about it? Is it enhancing my life? And why do I keep putting my money into an industry with a 97% failure rate, or putting my
right,
power into like, why am I at their mercy? And
exactly.
I had talked about this the other day on a live about my years in Weight Watchers and
Hmm.
how, they have your like goal range. So you can be a lifetime
Hmm.
member and you won't have to
Hmm.
pay. And I
Yep.
wanted to be in that range. That
Hmm.
it's not physically possible for me to be in that range, but I sure as hell was
Right.
gonna try. And of course not.
Hmm.
I just have to keep paying them. They don't want me to go there for free. They wouldn't have a business if everyone was getting in their range, um,
Absolutely.
and having lifetime membership.
Yeah. Well, they know that 80% of their membership is repeat business. But if
Mhm.
something works, why is 80% of the membership repeat business? They know
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
So,
I'll
yeah.
never forget saying that to a few of my friends when we were getting ready for a trip to Vegas for a wedding. So naturally, before you go on vacation, you're supposed to lose weight, right?
Yep.
Like that's what
Hmm.
we're told.
Yep.
Um, it was, gosh, over 10 years ago, but we were talking about going back to Weight Watchers. And I said, I'm like, but guys, if it really works, why do we have to keep going back?
Right.
I remember them looking at me like, because we always lose weight, so it works.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, but why do I have to keep going back if it works? I don't understand it. And then they were just like, because it just works. And what did I do? I went back because I was
Yeah.
going on vacation and I needed to lose weight. Not only was I going on vacation, I was in a wedding. So that's like double whammy.
Absolutely.
Naturally, I'm supposed to now starve myself for a couple weeks leading up to it and be miserable.
Right.
For
And then
what? I
we
don't
don't
know.
understand why we come back. And I don't understand why I just gained this weight back plus more. Oh,
Because,
it must all be me. It's all my
yes.
fault. I must have
Hmm.
done something wrong.
You had
But
no
no, and,
willpower.
and and I mean, there's a whole biological process underneath this, as you know. I mean, our
Hmm.
biology is not meant to be restricted to the point to make ourselves smaller. It's going to bounce back.
Hmm.
So, again, intuitive eating is just a way to stop that train, take a pause, and then
Hmm.
start to incorporate these new principles that are just all based on this compassion, this
Hmm.
allowance, this permission, this peace with food,
Hmm.
and settle into where our body wants to be. Because once we find that flow, that is what it's going to be like for the rest of our lives. I mean, our bodies want to stay within a 10, 15-pound range. It might
Hmm.
vary with seasons, it might vary with pregnancies, it might vary with
Yeah.
injuries and aging, but it really wants to stay in a certain spot. And when you get there, it's not hard to stay there. It becomes
That's
normalized and
true.
easy no matter what you eat. So you might go eat a really big meal one day, and then the next day you might not be as hungry. Or maybe you
Hmm.
eat for like 3 days of, wow, I don't know why I'm so hungry. But your body knows what to do, and it will regulate and deal with it. Um, and that's the beauty of intuitive eating, is really a normalized, stable weight.
Yeah. Where you say,
Um,
I'm not thinking about it, or I don't have to try to maintain this weight.
right?
And whenever
It
you
just
say
is.
that, or if you lose weight and you say, "Oh, I wasn't even trying to," you get like daggers shot at you. Like, what do you mean you weren't trying to? What do you mean you don't have to
Hmm.
work to maintain that weight? Like, I don't understand that. Um,
Right.
but it's possible, and
Hmm.
it's freeing, like so
Hmm.
freeing.
It
To
is.
finally just feel like, okay, this is where my body's happy. And again, some days you might eat a lot, you're hungry. But with intuitive eating,
Absolutely.
you know to listen to that.
Yeah.
And your
Yeah.
goal isn't to go to bed hungry. Like I used to think, well, I'm going to go to bed hungry because that means I did good. That means I didn't
Good.
eat too
Yeah.
much today if I'm going to bed hungry.
Yeah.
When your body's like, no, why am I hungry? Like you have access to
Right.
food. We are all very fortunate. I'm going to assume most people watching this are very fortunate that we have access to food. So then when our
Right.
bodies get that food, it's like, I'm going to hold on to whatever I'm getting because this might be
Absolutely.
the last time I'm getting food because I'm going to bed hungry every night.
Right. Right.
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah. And that just shuts down your digestion. And I mean, nothing's operating optimally. And then we're
Mm-hmm.
tired, we're
Mm.
cranky, we have headaches, we have no energy, we don't want to deal with things. And we wonder, and again, we then go to food again, blaming it for, I must not be eating the right things
Mm-hmm.
because I don't feel so well. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're just not eating enough. I mean, that's the other beauty of intuitive eating, is you really make sure that you're eating enough to make your body run smoothly. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we all need a certain amount of food to be able to stay with our busy lives.
Yeah, I
Um,
know.
and that's another part of intuitive eating that I love, is it's not so much about noticing where maybe you're eating more than you wanted to be eating, but also where you might be eating less, and
Mm.
just finding that sweet spot of what feels good.
Mm-hmm. Now are there 10 principles?
There are 10
Into,
principles.
would you
There are.
mind
I do not
just
mind, and sometimes I forget them, so I did write them down just in case.
absolutely, absolutely. I
And
always
so
have my
number
notes.
number one is reject the diet mentality, which is what we've been talking about, and that's
Mhm,
just essential. And then some of the what we call the attunement principles are the honoring your hunger,
mhm,
which means eat when you're hungry, because that's what gets your body knowing what to do when you eat.
mhm,
Then there's also feel your fullness,
mm,
which, um, you know, it doesn't mean every time you feel full, you absolutely have to stop eating, because a lot of people turn intuitive eating into the hunger fullness diet, where they're like, oh my God, I'm full. And I ate more than I was full, but I ate more. And then they start getting stressed about that. So that's not the point, but it's starting to learn, where is your fullness? And are you eating to your fullness daily? Are you eating past it daily? Like, where are you at, and what feels good to you? Third one is in the food realm, is the satisfaction factor, which I mentioned before. You want to make sure you're eating things you like, because a lot of people don't realize your body actually digests food better when you enjoy it. So they've done studies
mm,
on people where they had them eat things that they didn't normally eat in their diet.
mhm.
Um, and then they tested their blood to see like what kind of nutrients they absorbed. People absorb more nutrients when they're eating foods that they enjoy than when they're
Wow.
eating foods they don't like. So we sit there forcing ourselves to eat these foods that we might not like, but
Mhm.
we're not doing our bodies any favors, because they're not getting the nutrients from that.
Wow.
Um, anyway, I'll try not to I'll try not to explain every single principle.
Yeah, it's all right.
Um, the other two really big ones, with regard to the diet mentality, are making peace with food,
Mm-hmm.
and challenging the food police. So
Mm.
that's the people who are looking over your shoulder telling you what you should and shouldn't be eating.
Oh, I don't like the
Um,
food police.
yeah. And sometimes we have our own internal
Mm-hmm.
squad that's doing that for us. So we really need to address that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Coping with your emotions without using food is actually another principle as well. And so it's interesting because there's an unconditional permission to eat. But yeah, you also want to address it if the only coping mechanism you have for the stress in your life is food. And food
Mm-hmm.
is an awesome coping mechanism, and people eat emotionally all the time. It's not
Yes.
something to be feared. But if
Mm-hmm.
it's the only thing you have and you do it all the time, maybe you want to look at it, maybe you don't, but you get to choose.
Absolutely.
Um, and then the last three are respect your body, which is kind of this radical self-care
Mm-hmm.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
Dress your body in clothes that are comfortable. Decorate your body any way you want, not for other people, but for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the last two are gentle nutrition and joyful movement. And we often tell people, don't even look at gentle nutrition until you've really explored the other ones, because it can take you right back to diet mentality if you
Mm-hmm.
try to incorporate that too soon. And then joyful movement is all about find ways to move that you love, instead of just counting calories and
Mm.
thinking you're burning calories or doing an exercise because you ate something. um, you're really going to sustain movement if you find something that you enjoy. So
Yeah. And I remember when I
um,
like canceled my gym membership for the first time in, I don't know, probably 20 years. I was like, oh, this is
freedom.
okay. Why did
Yeah,
I have like we have this gym membership that you may or may not be going, but you don't want to cancel it because someday it
right,
will go back. And
right,
again, you start to question like, but why? Do I
right,
really have to if I don't enjoy it? There are so many other ways to move your body
absolutely, yeah.
and ways that you can enjoy it. And it's not about counting calories, like wearing the little the watch that like
Hmm.
counts how many calories I'm burning, and it being again a punishment or a I
Yeah,
should be doing this and
right,
not I want to be doing this.
right.
Like, and it's okay if you just went for a walk one day. People are like, oh,
Hmm.
I should have gone to the gym today, but I just went for a walk. No, you didn't just go for a walk. You
Right,
went for a walk, and that is a
right.
beautiful thing. You got fresh air and you went for a walk. Celebrate those
Exactly.
things.
Exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
anytime you start noticing the shoulds and the have tos and the musts and the anytime that starts to creep in, you kind of know you're moving away from the intuitive path.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Heather says it would be super awesome to have the principles in writing. So
oh
maybe we
yeah,
can either
I
pop
can
them in
share
the
that.
comments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, put them in
Yep.
the comments. That'll be the easiest.
And I have a little blurb that I won't read because it's pretty long, but it's about what normal eating is defined as by
Mhm.
some of the intuitive eating dietitians. And
Mhm.
it really is this idea that sometimes we eat a lot, sometimes we don't eat a lot, sometimes we eat all the cookies, sometimes we eat one of the cookies,
Mhm.
and it's all okay. It's
It's
all
all
just a part
okay.
of, and there are intuitive eaters out there. It's really interesting when you find one and you realize how little they think about food. They just eat. And sometimes they eat cheeseburgers and sometimes they eat bananas, and
Mhm.
it's all over the place.
Yeah, you just eat and it's
They
just
just eat,
food.
and
And
it's
we're
just
gonna be
food.
okay. Like I think that's like the biggest thing. You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And
Yeah.
giving yourself and getting permission from somebody else, like hearing us speak about this, giving you permission to like be
Hmm.
done with dieting and maybe explore something else and see what may serve you better and feel better and work better for you and your life and your body. And just know that it's
Exactly.
okay. Because I think too, when it comes to dieting and the shoulds, like we feel like we should be on a diet and
Right.
we're doing something wrong or breaking some rule if we're not, or our doctors tell us we're going to be unhealthy. So, well, I don't want to break his rule, or society's telling us we're not going to be pretty, like, and all this pressure and all of these good, bad, I'm a disappointment or I'm a failure to get the
Yeah.
permission to just be done with it can be just like a huge weight lifted literally off your shoulders.
Right. Right. It's
Mm,
really an invitation to explore your own sense of not enoughness,
mm,
because that's what's at the root of it for so many of us.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not about our food at all. And we just have kind of been spinning our wheels making it about food, because, again, of all the messages we get, that it is about food.
Mm, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
just like it's something that seems like it'd be so simple. Feeding yourself is like
Oh,
one
I
of the
know. And
most complicated things in the world.
exactly. And we've mentioned before that as kids, we do know how to feed ourselves. Like when we're infants, we know when we're hungry, we know when we're full. And
Mm-hmm.
it just sort of gets conditioned right out of us.
Yeah.
But we can get back to it. We can get back
Mm-hmm.
to it.
Yeah, I've been
And
trying. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the other thing I would say is, like, if you want to start intuitive eating, you also just want to connect with that. Why am I attracted to it? Like, what is
Mm,
it that bothers me about where I'm at that makes me think this is something I want to do? Because that'll give you clues too as to sort of where to start and what to do next.
yeah. Yeah. Set your intention, or at least think about your intention
Yeah.
for exploring it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say with my daughter, I haven't like dove fully in with her and like intuitive eating and Ellen Satter stuff that you
Mhm.
had sent me to. But I've been trying to just be a little more like, okay, you're eating a roll with melted butter for dinner. That's what you want. Okay, like you know what you like.
Mhm.
Um, and to know that she's only 4 and she has the
Mhm.
rest of her life to like explore foods. And my job right now is to make it not stressful
Right.
and trust that she's getting what she needs.
Mhm.
And does she eat a lot of vegetables? No, but it's okay. She'll
Mhm.
be okay. We'll all be
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
But I
Exactly.
mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
That's my biggest parenting challenge, I'd say, is food and the
Yeah.
language about it and fighting that urge to be like, eat that if you want to have this. Well, no, you can't
Mhm.
have a cookie because you didn't eat any broccoli. And it's
Mhm.
hard. It's
It
so
is.
hard because,
It
again, we feel
is.
like obviously it's our job to keep them healthy and we're told this is how to be healthy. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, my focus is really more on like, let's not make food stressful. Let's not make
Mhm.
it a big deal. Eat what you like, and I'll offer certain things. It's not a free for all,
Mhm.
but it's
Mhm.
it's a journey in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Absolutely. And she's so lucky to have you starting out with that, like, at a young age, because that'll help with some of that programming. I mean,
mhm,
chances are she'll still hear some of it in other spaces, but
mhm.
to have that solid rooting at home that says you're okay, and no matter what you eat or what you look like,
Yeah.
is, I mean, there's nothing that will make a kid feel safer than knowing that.
Mhm. It's
So.
funny though because I feel like kids with what their moms say, even when they're little, like they
Mhm.
want to do the exact opposite.
Mhm.
Or they want to believe the exact opposite. So she's with me most of the time. I could be doing and saying all these things. One person says something opposite, and that's what she's
Mhm.
focused on. So she's like,
Right.
Mommy, I finished all my food. I did good. I'm like, okay. I've never once said to her, good job, you ate all your food. But she only needs to hear it once from somewhere else. And
Mhm.
it's like, that's what and
Mhm.
she looks to me like, aren't you going to tell me that I did a good job because I finished
Mhm.
my food? And I'm always like, great. If you were hungry, you finish your food, great. If not, you don't have to finish it.
Right. Right.
But it just goes to show how like hard these outside messages are coming in
Yes.
at
Yep.
such a young age.
It's
So
true.
all of
Yeah.
you listening, give yourself grace and compassion. It's nothing you did, and it's
Right.
nothing to expect yourself to just like snap your fingers and be done with the battle with food. Like we're talking a lifetime.
Yeah.
of unlearning you need to do. But the beautiful thing is it's all learned behaviors and language and all of that, so you can unlearn it. You're not
Yes.
born feeling this way about your body. You're not born in this power struggle with food. It's learned, so you can unlearn it, which is a very big, I feel like, light. Like, oh, it is
Hmm.
possible. It is possible.
Hmm.
You weren't born to fight your body this way and to fight food this way. So with the right
Yeah.
support and the right knowledge and the right just desire to be open and
Yeah.
the curiosity, it can be
Exactly.
done. It can be done.
Yeah. We tell people this is not your fault and you're not alone,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many people in our culture that are dealing with this as an
So
issue
many.
in terms of
Absolutely.
just how to feed themselves. And a lot of people aren't even aware, and that's okay too. It
Yeah.
might not be something they want to look at or
Mm-hmm.
explore, but if you have that gut feel that this is something you'd like to dive into, then yeah, curiosity and compassion are
Yeah.
the
Two
most
big
important
ones.
things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
two big ones.
Yeah. Now,
So
where can people find you or more information about intuitive eating and what you do?
yes. So you can find me at elizabethhallcoaching.com. That's my website. I have a lot of blog posts that talk about this whole journey of intuitive eating.
You have
Um,
amazing blog posts.
oh, thank you.
Yes,
Thanks
check
for
out
the
her
review.
blog.
And I have a newsletter, and if you sign up for my newsletter, you get some free resources. And you can also just ask me questions, send me
Mm-hmm.
emails. My email is elizabeth@elizabethhallcoaching.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll answer reader questions in my newsletters. Um, and I'm on Facebook. You can search up Elizabeth Hall Coaching. You'll find me on Facebook. You'll find me on Instagram. Yeah, and I do one-on-one work with women, to help them learn the intuitive eating and beyond,
Mm.
because intuitive eating is sort of our first step, but there's other steps that come into play when we're healing, again, because everyone's path looks a little different and everyone has a different reason for being where they're at. And so we kind of
Yes.
gently start to explore that and tease it apart a little bit.
Yeah, because once you have all that energy and mental space not spent on
Yes,
food, you have like the world is just like opening up in front of you
it
and so much
has.
more to explore.
Yeah, and you just have access to so many more possibilities that you never saw before. And the
Mm-hmm.
ripple effect into everything is just unreal.
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 Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool, really. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put all of your links and the info. I'll put it right in the description of this video.
Okay.
So people can find you or you can pop it in the comments. I never know which people see more, the description, the
Hmm.
comments. We'll do both, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely
And I
check
do
out your
free
blog.
and I do free consultations. So if anybody listens to this and they have questions and they just want to talk for 30 minutes about what is this whole thing about,
Yeah,
I'm available. So
perfect.
yeah,
Well, thank you
awesome.
so much for this.
Well, thank you for doing
Yeah,
this
yeah, I love it.
and
Like I
your
said,
group.
I love having conversations. And I feel
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's the hairstylist in me, I think. Like for 10 years, that's what I did all day long. I had conversations with people. And there are just so many topics to dive into that I don't know everything about by any
Yeah.
means. We got to stick to our zone of genius. And I'm excited to be able to bring that to this community and just explore so many different things that maybe we never heard about or weren't on our radar. So I really, really
Yeah.
appreciate you being here with us and imparting all of this
Sure.
amazing knowledge.
I'm
So
happy to
we,
do it.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Let's see, we got some thank yous. I got some of the comments coming through, but I know there was a
Okay.
delay. But yeah, we will be back. I will be back next Tuesday with another guest. But thank you, Elizabeth.
Awesome.
And I hope you all have a beautiful night.
Yeah. Thank you.